Hello, everyone. Welcome to VRIC Media, your most trusted voice in metals and mining. I'm your host, Darrell Thomas, and today we have the pleasure of interviewing Michael DiRienzo of the Silver Institute. How you doing today, Michael?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, Darrell. Thank you very much.
Yes. So, a lot to cover today. I've been reading the Silver Institute reports for a while, as well as looking at some of the visuals from mining visuals and such. And it's always compelling just to see the data in front of me. So for the audience, let's just start with getting a little bit of your background and the background of the Silver Institute, just so that for those that don't know what the Silver Institute is, so that they know. And let's start there.
Sure. So I came to Washington, D.C. to work on Capitol Hill many years ago. And then after that, I was a lobbyist for the Toyota Group, one of their member companies. And then I became the communications director for the Silver Institute, the Gold Institute, and the American Zinc Association. We're managed by an association management firm. And at the time, it had all three clients. Over time, the Gold Institute shut down, and then the American Zinc Association folded into the International Zinc Association. And we picked up other lobbying clients, as well as the International Code of Cyanide Management, which my colleague runs. So I run the Silver Institute and have been doing so since 2006. We are an industry association. We are comprised of the leading mining companies throughout the world that focus on silver, the refiners, the end users, and of course the wholesalers of silver bullion products. And what we do, and our mission is really simple, is just to spread the word of silver and talk about silver and act as a resource for all things on the silver market. So we do that through various ways. Put out our World Silver Survey every year. We're doing it again, the 2026 version next month on April 15. We do market trend reports. We have marketing programs in some of the leading countries of importance to the silver industry, such as Mexico, Peru, China, India. We speak at a lot of conferences throughout the world. I'll be on the road quite extensively this year. I met you at PDAC, and then next month we're going to both Mexico and India, as well as New York City. But later in the year, we'll be going to Italy and Singapore and some other places to talk about silver. So we have a bi-monthly silver news. Our website covers all aspects of the silver industry. People can look at our reports or download them at no cost from silverinstitute.org. That's basically it in a nutshell. So we do a lot with a little, Darrell. I wish I had the budget of the World Gold Council, but we don't. So we tried to spread the word across the world as effectively as we can.
That's good to know. Good to know. Thank you for that rundown and brief history. So you've been with the Silver Institute since 2006. And so I'm curious in your perspective on watching this development of the deficit that we currently have. I think last year, I think it was 780 million ounces. I don't know if I'm just quoting a number out.
Well, what you're looking at is the cumulative number of the 5 years going through the deficit.
Yes. And so just in your experience, I mean, 2006, what was the silver supply deficit like in that era?
There was no deficit. We were in a surplus market. The silver price was, when I came on, it was about $7 or $8 an ounce. You'll recall that year they had put on the ETP, the ETF, Barclays at the time. In 2006, in April, launched the SLV. And a few years later, Sprott issued there. So the price bumped up from there on. But, it was an $11 and $12, $15 metal for quite some time. And in 2011, it got much higher. It got almost to $48, almost $49. And then Osama bin Laden was killed, and the risk of terrorism apparently just flew off the table, and the gold and silver price and other precious metals started to decline. So we were not in a deficit in that market in that year. As a matter of fact, we have to go back to the first year of this sixth year, being this year of the deficit, where I saw a deficit in the market.
Hmm. Okay, got it. So would you say in that prior bull market that obviously it wasn't the deficit that was
No,
funding that was contributing to the price movement? It was, I mean, we were in a commodities super cycle. I mean, you saw many different
right.
commodities run, and so silver may have just been a beneficiary in that.
Yeah, it was. And we saw, well, look at some of the factors that led to that were the strong fundamentals at the time, those fundamentals which are even stronger today. And if you go back to the COVID years, where the silver price bumped up and got over $30 as well, and over 35, you would note that the fundamentals of the market were quite strong. So 2020 looks like it's the first year of the deficit. And then 2021, 22, 23, 24, very high. And then this year we're projecting another deficit of around 95 to 100 million ounces. So cumulatively, if you add up all those numbers over the 6 year time frame, you're pretty much equal to 1 year of total mine supply to the market.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty alarming. I'm curious in your reaction to so I know in I think it was 2021 we had the Wall Street silver crowd, and I know they were buying like taking a lot of bullion off the market and such, and so were you seeing anything during that time with retail investors and any impacts in the market around that time, 2021?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you saw at the time, we were seeing a huge influx of retail purchases. Okay, so a lot of retail folks were coming into the market, buying bars and coins. The ETPs had a really strong year that year as well. And I think when next month when we release the World Silver Survey, you're going to see exceptional growth in 2025 in ETPs. Now that's come off somewhat this year, in the latter part of January, especially since January 30th. Um, but it's picking up again. So look at all together, the investment component of the market plays a huge role, of course, with the price, as does the folks that look at overall industrial demand for silver. 2025 was a record year in terms of prices, at least since I've been here. I mean, it crossed $50 an ounce, and it took a little less than 3 months to cross the $100 Rubicon. So, yeah, I think if you focus on today, you're seeing many factors that were prevalent, they're there in 2021, you're seeing today.
Okay. What was your reaction to see silver over? I think it hit $121,
Mm-hmm.
123 or something. What was kind of going through your mind at that time, seeing silver run that far, that fast?
Yeah, it was really hard to figure that out. Okay. I mean, I know that our member companies were very happy with that, right? It's come off a bit since then. But, there have been folks out there that have been preaching triple digit silver for quite some time, and it came true. And there are many analysts think that it's going to get there again, and in the short term. So it was interesting to watch. It was interesting to see the gold price too. Now, both metals, the prices have come off a tad, but there's no question about it. New floors have been set, for silver.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so just some of the things that the audience may be wondering. I'm just going to shoot by you. Some may be wondering about recession risks.
Hmm.
So slowdown in the economy. What happens to silver in that situation? And just curious in your perspective there.
Yeah, silver doesn't really react well, in recessionary periods or even in stagflation. Actually, in stagflation, it works better. Uh, Look, we'll just have to see the numbers, and we'll have first quarter results, the beginning of next month, globally for all countries. So we'll see where we are. Some of these numbers in the job market in the United States are not terribly encouraging. Um, but what you're seeing is you're seeing people flee to hard assets as a result of what's happening in the economy. There are many who think that the U.S. stock market, for example, is too frothy. It has been reacting as such over the course of the last 10 trading days. The war in Iran, the events that took place in Venezuela, the threats about Cuba and Canada and Greenland are not welcome for the global economy. But nonetheless, that's what we're dealt with, and that's what we're dealing with as we speak. So, look, we'll just have to see. But silver at over $70 an ounce today is behaving and performing quite well.
Okay. So you said there's a projection of there to be another deficit for this year, which would total to about 1 year of needed supply of silver. And so, curious in
If
your
you add up all the years cumulatively, yes.
yeah, yep, all the years cumulatively. So, just curious if do you see this being resolved at some point? Or I mean, some people think the miners are just going to turn the miners on, the mining on, and get the silver out of the ground and such. And so, I'm curious in your in your perspective there.
Well, there are several challenges to just turning on the spigot, right, or the spigot. Okay, Darrell. I mean, look, quite frankly, there have been no significant major new silver deposits coming online. In the United States, for example, the permitting process, while it's being addressed by the current administration, it can take anywhere from 10 to 15 years to once you find a new project to the actual mining of that silver. So there are several challenges geopolitically, structurally within the market. And silver, of course, is typically a byproduct of other metal mining activities. Silver, over 75% of it comes from lead, zinc, gold, or copper mining. So only 25% comes from what's identified as a primary silver mine. So there are some challenges to that. We think mine supply increased rather modestly at 1% or less than 1% in 2025. That may rise to maybe 2% or 3% in 2026 because of some new projects that are coming online, not only in Canada, but in Morocco and in Peru. So it's still not enough. And even when you couple in recycling, it's not enough to meet the current demand for silver.
Okay. So the supply isn't enough. They can't just turn the spigots back on. So I'm curious in the trend in demand. Where do you foresee that going? Do you see that continuing or tapering off at some point? Just curious in your thoughts there.
I think that, last year in terms of industrial demand, we may see a small decrease, but again, it will be almost insignificant. Um, and that is due in part to the global economy. But what we're very encouraged about is that while solar installations are increasing throughout the world, and there are others that manufacturers, OEMs, that are trying to use less silver based on the price for the solar industry. They're finding that it's just almost impossible to do, at least here in the short term. When you're building a solar field or a solar farm, you're going to want a 20 to 25-year lifespan for that particular project. You want reliability and you want stability, and you want to be assured that these solar panels are going to work. So silver really right now is the best, but it's about 14% of each panel's cost. So even when you go back to when silver was $13 an ounce, the manufacturers were looking to get out of silver, but they're finding it increasingly difficult if they're building a long range solar farm.
Hmm.
But we're
Okay.
also encouraged, Darrell. We're also encouraged by data centers and AI. This is something we reported on in December of last year in a Silver, the Next Generation Metal report that was done on our behalf by Oxford Economics. We don't have an exact number right now. We're hearing 50 to 60 million ounces initially of silver going into the the electrification of the data centers, which are used, of course, to power the growing field of AI networks. And the energy requirements are off the charts, and silver is going to play a huge role. Silver also has a role in wind and nuclear power as well. So all alternative energy sources, including obviously PV, require silver.
Our project is right in the southeastern corner of Wyoming. In the space of 4 years, fully engineered, fully permitted.
The ASIC is what caught my eye, $937 per ounce.
110,000 ounces per annum. First year of production is the most impressive. 132,000 ounces of gold, 24 million pounds of copper. You really want these things front-end loaded like that. US Gold Corp is a near-term, low-cost gold producer in Wyoming. To learn more, go to usgoldcorp.com.
Curious in your thoughts on the grids. So the grids have been a big issue, especially with the AI data centers moving into particular areas and having to plug into the grid. There's been the issue of electricity costs and such. Even President Trump at Davos talked about the AI, these companies need to invest in the grids and things of that nature. And so curious if silver plays some role in that somehow.
Well, I mean, a lot of communities. I live in Virginia. I work in Washington, D.C. Virginia is one of the leading regions throughout the world with respect to the construction and development and installation of data centers. And there are communities that are up in arms right now about the energy requirements and their own electricity bills to power these. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of state, local, and federal regulations requiring these data centers to use alternative power sources. There are data centers that run off of solar power. I think you're going to see more of that in the future. And I think that's a win-win for silver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so even thinking about this whole thing with the grids, silver being a necessary metal. I remember at PDAC I'd asked you the question because you and Joe Cavatoni, a mutual friend, were discussing back and forth about gold versus silver, and Joe's on the World Gold Council and such. And I asked you about the replacement for silver. So you mentioned earlier that some of these industries have looked to replace silver, but they're finding it extremely hard. Are there any other metals that could replace silver in this situation? Or
I'd hesitate to use the word replace. It's the number one conductor of electricity. It stores energy almost better than any other metal. They are looking at copper and combinations of copper and silver or copper and zinc and other metals as well. But it's just very, very difficult. It's very hard. You would need a structural change in the market. You would need something that would be so significant as to when silver halide photography was essentially taken off, no more demand based on digital photography. So I don't know what the next answer would be, if there even is one, to replace silver in these industrial applications. I don't think there is. Like I mentioned earlier, it's used extensively through electronics and electrical networks. Solar panels today are still the number one use of silver in industry. But you look at automobiles, even the ICE combustion engines use silver. As the complexity of the electric vehicles continues to expand, the silver requirements will continue to grow. EV sales are making huge penetration into ICE, internal combustion engine sales. More consumers are choosing, especially at today's gas prices, to either adopt a hybrid vehicle or a battery electric vehicle. So the future is bright for industrial use for silver.
Okay, got it. So will higher prices in silver cure higher prices? Um, I'm wondering if the silver price stays elevated, if that's going to drive a lot more investment into this particular industry and really to try to extract this out of the ground. Because you mentioned earlier that there hasn't been very many new discoveries, and so
Hmm.
I'm kind of curious if high prices cures high prices in this scenario.
Well, I don't know if that's actually the case. What I think what I think we're going to be seeing here is these higher prices are leading investors that may have been on the sidelines, um, maybe somewhat of a FOMO, but also finally recognizing the intrinsic value of silver, not only as a portfolio diversifier, but as a standalone metal itself. Investing in precious metals is a smart move. Investing in silver with its dual capabilities as an industrial and an investment metal, I think you're going to see a lot more of that. And quite frankly, we're hearing and seeing firsthand that more institutional investors are coming into the silver market, which for many, many years was a missing component of silver investment, but not today.
Okay, got it. What trends are you seeing in like the eastern part of the world? I know that
Hmm.
they typically store much of their wealth in gold and silver and such. And so, are you seeing any trends with the eastern part of the world?
Yeah, I mean, two of the most significant countries with respect to the global silver market are China and India. All right. And if you take China, for example, they're the world's second largest mining country of silver. India is the number one one of the top three industrial user of silver. But we're going to India next month for the fourth India Silver Conference. And quite frankly, when we were there 3 years ago, this would be the fourth year, silver exchange traded products, digital silver, was just beginning, and now it's taken off like gangbusters. Individual investors in India are using digital formats of silver or electronic versions of, ETPs, ETFs to invest into the market. It's being led by the younger generation, which gives a great sigh of relief for the road going down the road because these investors are taking small positions in gold, larger positions in silver, and it really is a nascent area. We're less than 5, 6 years old in that particular country. And China, of course, is, many people say that the precious metals markets have already moved east with China paving the way. Look at the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which also trades silver as well. You look at the various players, the Shanghai White Platinum and Silver Exchange in Shanghai. It's an important market for silver, and we're proud of the fact that we've been in China, the Silver Institute, for well over 20 years, hosting an annual conference, visiting China, visiting their silver miners, their refiners, and their manufacturers.
Okay. You have any thoughts on the Shanghai Gold Exchange versus I mean, there's a big difference in the spread on the
Mhm.
spot price between them and the COMEX, and so curious if you have any thoughts there.
I don't have many thoughts. I mean, look, it's a market that's there for a reason. It plays an important role in the global silver trade. I mean, there's only an hour a day, apart from Saturdays, and up until Sunday, 6 o'clock p.m. East Coast time, where silver is not being traded. So around 6 p.m., 6:05, you'll see the markets open up in Asia, Hong Kong, China, Australia, and it trades all the way up until late in the afternoon, New York time, 4 p.m. So it's widened the capability of investors in various regions of the world to take a position in silver. They're playing an important role. Last year we had several bottlenecks with silver delivery leading up the first quarter of the year up until April 2nd, which was Liberation Day in the United States with respect to tariffs. Saw a lot of metal coming from London and Switzerland, and in some cases China to New York to avoid any potential tariff. Those tariffs did not come to play. And then again in October in India during the Diwali holiday, we saw some structural issues there with getting silver into India to meet the demand for that holiday period. So China serves an important role. India plays an important role in the global market, and you know, so does everywhere else. To be quite honest with you, I mean, last year was a phenomenal year, and this year's starting off just as strong.
Yeah, yeah, got it. Okay, and I asked that question because, like, me as a retail investor and other retail investors, there's been a lot of energy around the difference in the spot price on the Shanghai and the COMEX, and a lot of it due to the COMEX having a lot of paper contracts tied to the
Mm-hmm.
tied to 1 ounce of silver and such. And people believe that the Shanghai is more of a more accurate reflection of where silver should be because they don't have as much, I guess, leverage tied to it or whatnot. I haven't researched it, the Shanghai, very much, and I haven't dove deep into that. And so I was just curious on that front. Um, so what should we expect moving forward? I mean, obviously, you're projecting a deficit for this year and such. Do you have any, I mean, you don't have to give a price prediction or anything like that, but do you have any general outlook on where you think the metal's headed for the rest of
Yeah,
the year?
I think it's going north. I mean, I just look at the fundamentals of the silver market. Who would have thought what we saw last year with respect to the price in the first month of this year? There's just a lot of room for growth in the silver market. The miners are being very smart. They're being very cautious about their exploration dollars, and they're doing it in a very deliberate and smart way during this run in the market. And I think down the road that portends great for them. Look at their stock prices versus 5 years ago. It's quite phenomenal on the silver side and the gold side. So look at I think that this market has changed significantly in the last 18 months. As I mentioned earlier, I think new floors have been set with respect to the price. And I think there's just a ton of growth potential here. So we're very excited to see where this year and the following years take us with respect to the global silver market.
Okay. So are you more of a I'm assuming you're more of a silver bug than a gold bug. Just
Mhm.
curious in your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I am. I mean, we have great relationships with our friends in the gold business, even so in the platinum and palladium business. Uh, but yeah, it's been a dynamic period for both metals, and with silver, we're just a little bit we're more encouraged by the industrial uses of silver, um, of which make up almost 60% of the global market on an annual basis. Uh, so yeah, silver to me is just more interesting of a metal than gold. But gold plays an important role, and you know, I just wish central banks would be buying silver as well.
Hmm.
They're not at present. Some have made mentioned that they may get into silver down the road, and we would welcome that, of course. So yeah, I think silver offers great opportunities at a lower price point to take a position in a metal with just extensive and expansive potential.
Hmm. What pushback would you have for someone who, let's say, if they're looking at the platinum palladium market or just the platinum itself, when you look at platinum, it's not, I mean, it's the market's very tight.
Hmm.
It's mostly produced out of South Africa and Russia, but some people say, well, jurisdictionally, that's very risky. Like supply could be taken offline easy and such. And so, if someone thinks that the platinum market is the better place to be than silver, what pushback would you have for them?
I mean, platinum serves an important role, obviously, with catalytic converters and so forth. I think that when you look at the electrification, and if you look for platinum, I mean, I don't want to put any other of the precious metals down, but you're seeing legislation and restrictions on internal combustion engines. That's not to say that that's platinum's only industrial use. It doesn't enjoy the diversity of uses that silver has, for example. Um, More people buy platinum wedding rings than they buy silver wedding rings. So there are trade-offs, right? And it just depends on where your passion lies.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I do actually have a silver necklace. I bought it a while ago, and so I need to wear it more, Michael.
You need to wear it more and don't trade it in. Don't recycle it, okay?
I got you. Uh, any thoughts on the whole refinery situation? So I know that with the recent price run up, uh,
Hmm.
people were trying to sell their silver, and I even went to one of my coin dealers, and I just kind of go just to see what's happening, in the
Yeah.
kind of retail side of things, and they were just like, hey, yeah, some refiners aren't taking silver, refiners are backed up and such, and so. Is that going to be a persistent issue as prices move higher, or I'm just curious in your thoughts on that?
Well, I remember quite vividly in 2010 and 11 walking down the streets of New York and by a jewelry store, we buy gold, we buy silver. I don't see those signs anymore because of that very issue you outlined. The secondary market for scrap or recycled silver is extraordinarily tight. The wait is very, very long on the backside. So I don't see that changing anytime shortly, although it has improved to a degree when you look at 2025. Um, when people are trading in or exchanging their gold and silver, it's usually led by gold scrap, and then the silver gets swept into it. We've received very few calls from people across the world with respect to where do they go to trade in their silver. Uh, so I think that problem is persistent. I know that all of our refining members are working 24/7. And I mean, and they weren't at one point 3 years ago or 4 years ago, but they are today. So the demand is very strong.
Okay, and so to even resolve that, would that just require like building more refineries and
It would. It would indeed. I mean, I'm happy to, you've read that Korea Zinc is working to build a new zinc silver smelter in Tennessee. That would be the first new smelter to come online in decades in the United States. So there are some encouraging signs. But again, like mining, putting in a refining plant in any jurisdiction in the United States is very difficult.
yeah, I imagine it's going to take years to build out.
Hmm.
I don't know how long, but I saw the rare earth refining capabilities takes anywhere 7 to 10 years or whatnot to build out.
Yeah, it's not a short process by any means. It's just not. So those are challenges to the market, right? And certain end use sectors, refining. Um, but that market is, like I mentioned earlier, is working around the clock to try to come up with a solution to meet these overwhelming demand for people, for industry, for coinage programs throughout the globe. It's it's a challenge.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, Michael, I appreciate you coming on the show and everything. What should the audience be looking forward to? You mentioned you have a survey coming up.
Hmm.
I know you all are putting out reports. You all are traveling, going and seeing what's
Right.
happening in different parts of the world. What should the audience be looking forward to? I mean, I'm assuming you all have reports that have come out based on 2025 that
Hmm.
people can go read up on and such. Just let the audience know what should they be looking forward to, and what should they go check out.
So this year, next month on the 15th, we will be putting out the World Silver Survey. That will go online that morning as soon as the presentation begins in New York. That is a very comprehensive report. If people want to look at any other World Silver Survey we've issued since 1990, those are all online as well in our World Silver Survey library. Two market trend reports, which are smaller reports authored by experts in their fields, will be released this year. One on the gold-silver ratio and the importance it plays in the market. The other is we're looking at bullion flows. We after those two experiences last year in India and the United States, we want to see the availability of the deliverability of above ground stocks and the logistics required to move that metal. So those are two market trend reports we're putting out this year. So it's going to be a great year. It already has been for silver, and we're looking forward to further developments as the year progresses. So thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, for sure. Where can they go to access those reports?
Silverinstitute.org, O-R-G. You
All
can
right.
sign up for our newsletters. You can sign up for our press releases right there. Anything we issue will be sent to you automatically the moment we publish it. And any questions anybody has, they can contact us from our website on the market. I'll be happy to chat with anybody about silver.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, it's good to hear from another silver bug
All right, Darrell.
on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
You all be sure to hit the subscribe button. Love to have your support for the channel as we're continuing to grow and approach 100,000 subscribers. So thank you all for joining today. And Michael, love to have you back sometime. Take care.
You got it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, Darrell.